All right, man. The regular season is officially over, and now the real fun begins. We have some of our playoff matchups and some to be determined within the next 2 or 3 days. But now it's time to talk about what exactly we learned this regular season. When the Knicks picked up Jalen Brunson 2 years ago, I definitely thought it was a solid move. Jalen, he was always an efficient point guard that literally just had to take a back seat to one of the most ball-dominant players in the sport. Him joining the Knicks, a team that hasn't had a competent point guard for the majority of my life, was obviously a major win. The Knicks got this man on a 4-year, $100 million contract, and literally, it may be the best move they've ever made. If you look at the Knicks this year, they have not been healthy. Julius Randle, their second best player, he basically missed half the year. OG Anunoby, one of their biggest trades this year, he's been hurt. Mitchell Robinson, he just came back. The glue and literally everything keeping all of this together is that small 6'1" crafty ass point guard, Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson this year not only took another leap from last year, which was extremely impressive, he's having one of the most dominant seasons in the league and arguably historically one of the best in Knicks history. With all those injuries and all the uncertainty within the lineup this year with the Knicks, if you want to see this man's true impact, look at the Knicks this year when he's on the court and when he's off the court. He's literally living in Luka's old shoes. These are the top 5 players this year putting points on the board, meaning the value they bring, points and assists. In my opinion, these are the 4 most dominant players this year and Jalen Brunson. These are the top 8 players this year as far as plus minus. Everybody in this top 8 are on the top 3 teams record-wise this year. Everybody except for Jalen Brunson, again, showing his impact. Historically, if you want to look at how dominant of a season he's having for the Knicks specifically, these are the highest plus minuses in a single season for the New York Knicks since they've tracked the stat 25 years ago. Jalen Brunson has by far the highest. These are the most 40-point games in a single season by a New York Knicks player. Jalen Brunson is second. And on top of all of that, he just led his team to 50 wins with all these injuries and all these obstacles, which they've only done twice since the 2000s. I don't care how you may view him from the past. This man is a superstar, and he proved it this year. Easily the best contract in the sport. LaMelo Ball, and really the Ball brothers as a whole, they just aren't NBA material, at least lasting-wise, and that's just what they've proven. Not saying they're not skilled enough. They were obviously lottery picks for a reason. But health-wise, you can't build around those guys as cornerstone pieces to your franchise because they're just not reliable. The criteria to qualify for a lot of these awards now, MVP, all NBA teams, etc., is now 65 games with the new CBA agreement. In the last 2 seasons combined, LaMelo Ball would not qualify. It's crazy because before that very draft in 2020, I made a whole video about the irony of it. They questioned Anthony Edwards' love for the game because I believe he rapped and he said basketball wasn't his main priority, something like that. But look at how that's aged 4 years later. Since they've been in the league, you know where Ant ranks as far as games played in his own class. First with 300 games plus. You know where LaMelo ranks? 31st, which would be the first pick in the second round. Look at the trajectory or the results of their franchises since that draft. Minnesota has 3 playoff berths in Ant's first 4 years, and 4 years later, they have 55 wins and they're 3rd in the West. The Hornets, in 4 years, they haven't made the playoffs in the East, and 4 years later, they have a worse record than the record that qualified to get LaMelo Ball. They're getting worse. I have zero faith in the Ball bros. I'm sorry. They're talented, but they're just not durable. You can blame the shoes or whatever, but they just haven't proven it. I'm sorry, LeVar. I'm not going to be too long on this because we can say this every single year, but LeBron James will never be a bad NBA player. I genuinely believe it's just not possible at this point. Like, Father Tom has definitely hit him, and he's still one of the most impactful players in the sport to this day. LeBron's 2 most dominant seasons for me, the 2 ones that I've seen and witnessed, was 2013 when he won MVP and should have won Defensive Player of the Year, and 2018 after Kyrie left. Those are the 2 that stands out for me. This year, in year 21, he basically had the same field goal percentage that he had in 2018 when he was 33 years old and a higher 3-point percentage than the best of his career in 2013. He's in year 21, bro. This man just had 20 consecutive seasons averaging 25 points or more. The second is KD at 15. Also, he just had 20 consecutive seasons averaging 25 points and at least 6 assists. The second most is Oscar Robertson at 9. Also, he just had 20 consecutive years averaging 25, 5, and 5. This isn't his era. He shouldn't be playing with guys that wasn't even alive when these streaks started and coaches that was in the same draft class. Speaking of players that's not in LeBron's era, Victor Wembanyama is the definition of a generational pick. We saw this man way before he even got into the league, and my main concern, like a lot of people, was his health. Guys normally that size don't really have long careers due to the strain on their longer, more frail limbs, but Wemby just played 70 games. That's extremely positive, and he had a way better season than even anticipated. Look at what Bleacher Report had as Wemby's projected stats versus what he actually did. Historically, look at exactly how dominant his rookie year was compared to the greats. Since 1990, the last 34 years, he's top 10 in points per game as a rookie, rebounds per game as a rookie, assists per game as a rookie, steals per game as a rookie, and obviously blocks. He's the only one that can say that. What makes it even more impressive when you add more context, all these players played significantly more minutes than Wemby. That's what makes it scary. And think about it like this, and why I'm so impressed with this 20-year-old rookie with all this hype. The most dominant big man defender of my lifetime was probably Dwight Howard. I know he's kind of a meme now for personal stuff, but in the late 2010s, this man was so dominant defensively that he damn near won 3 straight DPOYs unanimously. Now look at his 3 straight DPOY seasons as far as blocks and steals, prime peak Dwight, and look at rookie Wemby this year. Adding more context, and I know Wemby's way more tall, but that's exactly what makes him great. Back then, the game was played way more inside out. Look at how many shots were shot at the rim back then compared to now. Even with that, rookie Wemby is way ahead of peak prime Dwight. If you want to add the second most dominant big defender of this era, Rudy Gobert, he won 3 straight or 3 DPOYs. He's only had 200 blocks in a season one time, and in that specific year, he played every single game. Wemby already did it, and he way surpassed it in way less games. I knew he was going to be a problem, but he's way better than advertised. And like everyone is saying, this is the worst version of him. Imagine year 3, year 4, year 2, especially if he gets some help. The OKC Thunder with Sam Presti, that's the greatest rebuilding culture in the sport. We've talked about for years how impressive it was when they traded Ray Allen and Rashard Lewis and basically blew that up and drafted 3 MVPs consecutively. Obviously, that's one of the biggest what ifs ever if they all stayed together, but still, they achieved greatness. And now, with one of the youngest teams in the league, they did it again. I get it. Some people are viewing them as one of the weaker first seeds in recent memory, and if they do play the Lakers, it probably will be proven valid. But add the context to it. They're literally the youngest first seed in NBA history. Everything they do after that, in my opinion, is icing. The West this year is an absolute bloodbath. One of these 4 teams, they're all qualified, and to me, they all should make it, won't make the playoffs. We have 10 teams in the West, 10 games above 500. That's never been done. Even with all that being the case, OKC has a 70% winning percentile against the West. Mind you, every team that made at least the play-in, all 10 teams, they're at least top 18 as far as age. These are vet-ass teams. Everybody except for OKC. I don't really care exactly what they do in the playoffs. Look at the development of their squad. Shea, his first year in OKC to now, superstar. Jalen Williams, his leap as an all-around scorer from last year as a rookie to now, insane. Chet, he went from playing 0 games last year, which was a big concern with his health, to all games this year. OKC has the best draft/development program in the league, and now it's proven. Chicago, I know they barely scratched the play-in just like they did last year, but that experiment they made 2 to 3 years ago has quickly turned into a nightmare. I still remember in 2021-2022, that honeymoon stage. Lonzo, it looked like he finally found a home. DeMar DeRozan had one of the craziest clutch Kobe-like seasons I can remember. Zach LaVine was still a star, and they actually held the first seed for a significant portion of that year. But then Lonzo got hurt, and it's quickly turned into a disaster. The Bulls, they actually had the most loyal fan base in the league. They lead the league by far in attendance, so it's kind of sad. But the product they give their fans, unfortunately, has been very underwhelming. First of all, the contracts, they've aged horrifically. Lonzo, he was given that sizable deal, and he hasn't played a game in 2 years. Zach LaVine, 2 years ago, he got a 5-year, $215 million contract, and the team is better without him. Also, with his contract being that massive, He's an extremely hard player to move. You literally might have to attach picks to move on from a player on a superstar deal. That's nasty. And then I don't really see much of a promising future. Next year, they're probably going to lose DeRozan. They're not going to get a high draft pick because they're in no man's land. And the majority of their cap is going to be eaten up by 2 declining players off injuries. It's simply a disaster of a situation. And lastly, James Harden. He's probably one of the most untrustworthy stars I've ever seen. You literally can't get behind him. Pause. Maybe what Doc Rivers said early this year has some validity to it, because when he doesn't make the All-Star team, it seems like he kind of checks out. When the Clippers first got on that win streak and pretty much dominated the NBA for like 2 months, Harden was playing some of the most impactful team basketball in the league. In fact, probably the most. In that span, all the way up to the All-Star break, where they were completely obliterating teams, James Harden had by far the highest plus-minus on his team, and not just his team, the league. This man was averaging close to 9 assists with only 2 turnovers. He was insanely efficient, and he had the best winning percentage of any player in the league. When he played, good stuff happened. But since the All-Star break, clearly something happened. Now he has the worst plus-minus on his team in a 24-game sample size since the All-Star break. And I know they've had injuries, but that's literally what he was brought there for. Half of his games, he shot under 40%. 6 of his games, he shot under 30%. 3 of his games, he shot under 20%. He has a game where he went 0 for 10. I don't know what exactly it is, but it seems like every single time around this year, he's just not quite the same guy that we saw when they had their highs. Spoiler alert, because I will be doing my picks right before the playoffs kicks off Saturday morning. He's the sole reason why I'm picking Dallas. I just don't trust any team that he's the sole contributor on. I'm sorry. If you guys like this video, I will be doing part 2 within the next few days, so stay tuned for that. Make sure you guys follow my social media, specifically my Twitter through the playoffs. I will be tweeting through that. Do all that great stuff, guys, and until next time, as always, stay tuned.